Maybe? Yeah? We're split, right? Is it a bad health bar? No? Yeah. It depends. You didn't get to eat a big lunch and you're kind of hungry before training. This is a great bar to have. Fuckload of carbohydrates. Wonderful. But if we look at the next example, this is Quest bar, one of my favorite bars. 20 grams of protein, 200 calories. That's a pretty good fucking option. Would I have that necessarily before training? No. Maybe not. Yeah, after. Or a good bit out. So what option is better? I don't know. Depends. Why is nutrition coaching really hard and confusing? It depends. When people come to these things, they always want to be like, Ian, tell me the perfect diet. I don't know, it depends. What do you like? What's your goals? I don't fucking know. There's only kind of bad food when it comes to like, oh, this is like poisonous for me. I will die if I eat it. Yeah, then it's maybe a bad food. Well, unless you guys plan on consuming poison, I would say pretty much everything else is on the table. Does it fit your goals? Cool. That's macronutrients. I threw a million things at you. What questions do you have?
Can you overconsume protein? Would it be effective? Let's say you couldn't really get your protein in for the entire day.
Uh-huh.
Like you're like, all right, I'm 485 pounds, I'm going to try to consume 185 grams.
Uh-huh.
Is that going to be effective? Or just if you can only consume like some per exceeding?
Are you asking, do you always have to consume that amount of protein? And what happens if you consume a bit less? Or?
What happens if you try to consume all of it at once?
Oh, that's a great question. Because we tried that. Go get a protein shake. 1 scoop of my protein that I use is around 30 grams. So how many scoops would I need to get 180 grams of protein? All right, guys, buckle up. Ian's going to sit here and eat a 6-scoop protein shake. Let's see what happens to him. That's just not going to happen, dude. That is a good question. Does your body metabolize all that protein at once? That's a crazy argument that people made. It's like, don't have protein supplements because you have too much protein at once. It's not natural. Okay, let's think about what happens when people like would hunt game and you're like running after stuff and you go kill a fucking cheetah and then you go cook it and you go eat it. You haven't eaten for like 2 days and all of a sudden you just eat a shitload of protein. Is that going to kill you? Are you going to not metabolize all that protein? No, of course you are. That's silly. That's like an argument that people made for like, don't eat this protein source, it's bad for you. Eat my protein source, it's good for you. So there's a lot of like things that sound like things in nutrition but aren't really things. I would say though, to make this more actionable, you have to get 60 grams of protein per day. Just divide it into boluses of 40 grams. You have 4 boluses of 40 grams, boom, there you go. That's a lot more doable than someone just sitting there and be like, I'm going to chug 180 grams of protein shake at once. If you didn't shit yourself, I'd be very impressed. And I can guarantee you're not going to have very many friends. Very good question, though. Everything you eat turns into stuff. There's no, like, wasted stuff. Could you say that a little bit louder? I'm sorry. Uh-huh. Correct. Very good question. Yeah, this is the cool stuff. You're fasting after you sleep. So having a higher calorie meal before you go to bed is probably going to have some spillover effect of when you wake up, especially if you wake up 8 hours later and you train pretty much straight away. You're going to have what's called more glycolytic, like storage. So basically like your muscles have a certain amount of energy just sitting there to be used at any time. And that tank is full if you eat and it empties when you're not eating. If you eat fairly close to bed, you're more likely to have some in the tank for when you train in the morning. If you're talking about fat in particular before you go to bed, fat will eventually get turned into carbohydrates if it's being asked to do so. If you're at rest, it's more likely to get stored just in its storage form, which is like a triglyceride, and it will get used eventually, but not there and then. So I don't think it really matters ultimately, other than what your training session is going to look like. If you're just thinking physiology, like will I burn more fat in the morning if I have a higher fat meal at night? No, that's not a thing, unfortunately. The fat burning zone is kind of not a thing. You oxidize fat, you use fat when you're exercising for a long time. That's why marathon runners like run out all my quick glycogen and I have 3 more hours. This fucking sucks, bro. Well, I'm not gonna stop. I still have 3 more hours of running. So what is your body gonna have to use eventually? Stores of fat, which then get turned into things that we can use like glucose. So fat can eventually get turned into stuff that you will metabolize quickly. It just takes a long time for that to happen. So the idea behind the fat burning zone is like, if I just exercise for long enough, I'll, get there. It takes a while. Does that answer your question? Cool. Any other question on macros? Yes?
If you were to change where your macros come from on a daily basis,
Uh-huh.
one day I would just have heavy fats, but the next day I would have heavy carbs. If you vary it over time, is that going to impact? Would it be better to stay consistent across the board?
No, that's a really good question. What's the best macronutrient for intense exercise? What's the best macronutrient for rest? You're having a rest day. You know your rest day. What should you consume a little bit more of that day? Cheese, because fat. Correct. You're working out twice in one day. You're going to do the morning class here and then you're going to go to sparring. What should you consume a lot more of? Correct. So yes, your macronutrients can change based on the day. What shouldn't change? Your protein. Protein stays the same. That's a really good question. I'm going to run out of time here like I always do, and I plan a ton of shit that we never touch on. So I'm going to make this really, really quick. This is what I based everything off today. This is from a great book called The Muscle and Strength Pyramids, the nutrition section of it. There's a training section and nutrition section. This book is so easy to read. It's phenomenal. It will really help people. So I'm basing what I'm talking about today off of the most important things here, which are macronutrients, your energy balance, and your behavior and lifestyle. And that's what I'm going to end on today, is behavior and lifestyle, because that's actually the most important part. Micronutrients are important, but not as important as anything else. Nutrient timing is important for training, but it's not really that important in the grand scheme of things. Supplements are the least important. People love to think supplements are the shit. Supplements, you might be lucky to gain 1 to 2% benefit out of things. If you're a high-level athlete that's nailed everything else, that is super worth your time. If you're not, if you don't have good habits, don't start supplementing creatine and be like, yeah, I fixed it, and you eat like 40 grams of protein a week. Don't do that. That's a bit silly. So, eating behavior and adherence is super important. And here are the questions that I ask most people. What do you eat 80% of the time? Meaning, do you have a lot of stability in your meals? When do you eat your meals, and is it consistent? Do you have set times for your meals, or are you chaotic? How much variety do you have in your diet? Do you like a lot of the same foods all the time, or do you want to try a bunch of new things all the time? What's your kind of tolerance for that? Are you hungry when you eat? Do you still force yourself to eat when you're not hungry? Or do you wait until you're starving to eat? So is your diet chaotic, or is it really tightly controlled? I'd say neither are good, to be honest, within the extremes. What's your best and worst food habit? And I'm going to ask people this. What is your best food habit? There's no wrong answers.
I like chicken breasts, avocados. I like a lot of whole foods.
She likes a lot of whole foods. That's a fucking tremendous food habit. What's your worst food habit? No judgment.
I eat a lot of ramen.
Hands up if you think that's a bad food habit, eating a lot of ramen.